going like this. Yeah.
Greg, it's an incredible pleasure to be here with you.
It's great to be here.
You invented something that is revolutionizing part of my life, which is wine. And I first saw your invention almost 2 years ago in Silicon Valley with a good friend of mine who's an investor, Jeff Clavier, pouring in a very unusual way his own wine to me. What is it you invented?
So I always work on my own problems. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've worked in medical devices predominantly in my life, generally working on the problems of my family. But I ran into a problem when I was about 29 years old. My wife was pregnant with our second child. I loved wine. It was a bigger and bigger part of my life. And I realized that after I opened the bottle, I was sort of in a rush to finish it.
Because your wife couldn't drink any alcohol.
There we go. And so there I was, not opening the wines that I had, buying an expensive wine during the week because I was willing to throw it away. And I realized actually that my interaction with wine was really constrained by the way that it was sold to me, that it's cork and glass. And as soon as I remove that cork, the wine starts its inevitable oxidation, and I've got to drink it over the next couple of days. And what I really wanted to do was to be able to drink from 4 or 5 different wines in an evening, just a taste. Drink a white Burgundy in a
That's what you go to a wine bar for.
Yeah. Actually, that's it. I wanted a wine bar in my house. I wanted the variety of wine that I could drink in an evening to be every bottle that I owned. I wanted what you get in a wine bar to be in my home, and I realized that what was in my way was the cork.
So what did you invent?
So I work in medicine, and one of the first things that I did was work in needles. So I made special types of needles that would go into an implant under the skin for chemotherapy. And these needles don't do damage. Needles, exactly.
That's where we faint.
Right, exactly. Please, if you're standing, sit down if you've got a fainting issue. But I'd gotten very good at making needles when I was young in my career.
Just show us the needle.
So this is a special non-coring needle. I should probably not mention where it's actually used, but it's spine, epidurals. Most women who have had kids know what this is about. But it can pierce cork and go through it without doing damage. So if I realized that the cork...
This is an uncorked bottle, right?
Unopened bottle.
Okay, unopened bottle.
And I realized that the cork does a great job of preserving the wine. In fact, when it was first used in glass, they didn't have a way of getting it out. That was invented later. It's there to preserve the wine. And I thought if I can get past the cork and pour the wine and then come back out again, leave the cork.
Get another bottle and try a different wine.
That's it. Then I could
solve your problem.
I'd have the wine bar in my house.
So we have a demo?
You betcha. It's perfect timing. I'm sure in Europe, actually, it's the perfect time for a glass of this wine. So it's got a little clamp, goes on top of the bottle. I use an inert gas to push the wine out. It's argon. It's heavier than air, noble gas. This is the trigger for that, you'll hear, like so. Press the needle through the cork.
Wow.
Tip it sideways, press the trigger, gas goes in, let go, and wine comes out. Every time I press, more wine will come out. And when you're done, you just drop your hand. The extra gas, argon, comes out. Pull the needle out and take it off.
Let's see the bottle.
So the good news is that cork is really elastic. And so because of its elasticity, it closes just the same way that it's compressing against the glass in the inside of the neck. So you can drink from this bottle again next year, next month, check to see if it's ready, or just do what I do.
Back in the cellar.
Yeah.
And you replace the wine with gas.
That's right, with argon, which is one of the noble gases. I tried all sorts of gases, including helium, which was silly.
And you were declared Invention of the Year?
Yeah, we won a lot of awards. Turns out this was not just my problem. A lot of people all over the planet wanted to do this. This is a new field to me. I don't do consumer products. I did medicine.
And you've sold like 100,000 of those?
Yes, we have. And the first actually to recognize Coravin was La Revue de Vin de France, which gave us the top innovation of the year last year. Bordeaux is using it. Yeah, not bad. I was really psyched.
So tell me about the product. How long did it take to develop the product? How many iterations of it?
I feel like Orson Welles.
Right.
You know, drink no wine before it's time. My son that my wife was pregnant with is now about 188 centimeters tall and 16 years old. So it took me 11 years of testing to find the right needle, the right gas, and the right pressures that could work with wines from all over the world, from vintages going back into the early 1960s. I really wanted to make sure that when we launched it as a product that we knew that it worked and that people could start going into their cellar and drinking whatever they wanted. I wanted there to be no hesitation between you and a great glass of wine. Have a great, wonderful wine on a Wednesday. And the only way you can do that is by, in my view, making sure that the wine that you pour from and an untouched bottle of the same wine taste identically 5 years later, 10 years later.
You were put to test with one of the most famous wine connoisseurs in the world, Jancis Robinson.
Yes.
What happened then?
It was one of the scariest. She's an expert. She's a master of wine, the first female master of wine. Lives in the UK. Very serious.
Fierce.
Very fierce indeed. An amazing palate, absolutely amazing palate. And she said, I want to test your device. We have to see if this works. I was in my home in Boston. She said, take a photograph of all the wines you have that are at least 5 years out. And send it to me. And I did. And she selected 2 wines. I flew out to London with an access bottle or Coravin bottle and a control. Walked up to her door. It was raining. It's London. I'm knocking.
Of bottles you've tried with your system 5 years before.
And a control bottle of the same wine.
Okay.
2 different wines. One a Southern Rhone wine and one a Super Tuscan that she had selected. I walk in, and she's, if anybody's seen her, she's classically, I don't know, sort of
British.
Intense, intellectual British. And she's typing while she's opening the door. She lets me in. And we go downstairs immediately, and I pour her this blind taste test, starting with the Rhone wine. And you're not supposed to be able to tell. And she picks the glasses that were poured from the 2 different bottles immediately, like in seconds. I'd never seen it so fast. I'd never seen it before. I'd been with Robert Parker. I'd been with all these other guys that couldn't tell. And I'm crestfallen. This is just before we launch. She's going to write for the Financial Times. I thought we were ruined. And 2 minutes after I'm in my panic, she looks and she says, you know that these aren't the same wine. Your one you poured 5 years ago in your control bottle are 2 different wines, made by the same producer, but they're not the same wine. I was like, oh no. Now I've been an idiot in front of Jancis. So poured her the second one, and she couldn't tell. And she said, your honor's restored. It's going to be okay.
She couldn't tell. So this doesn't affect the taste of your wine. Actually, you're delivering on your promise.
That's it. I think there's 2 big challenges for any company in any business, and this is true in medicine as well. You have 2 big challenges when you're changing behavior. One is to change behavior. The other one is to prove that you work. And I think you need to do both. You have to have a product that works, and then there's an extraordinary effort to cause or help behavior to change. And for me, the proving that it worked was I wanted to repeat what I did in my own cellar and with Jancis all over the world. So I've held 25 blind tastings out to a year with producers in Burgundy and Bordeaux, in
and it
Spain.
Works.
It does, so far.
So this week you're announcing a round of financing, but your previous investor is a French investor.
Yes, yes, and still my largest shareholder. So we have a bunch of great investors. Quadrille Capital out of Paris is the largest single shareholder in our company. Wyndham Venture Partners here in New York City.
It used to be called Quilvest.
Yes, used to be Quilvest. Argentinian German beer money or something like
Yes.
that, in banking money. Really spectacular people. I knew that when I founded Coravin that I wanted there to be a rich connection between the United States and Europe. The US is the single largest consumer of wine worldwide for the time being, but Europe as a whole is much larger, and France is really the seat of the culture.
You also have French winemakers as investors.
Yes, Marc Perrin, who's
Chateau Beaucastel.
Beaucastel, he's and Family Perrin Distribution. He's an investor, a friend at a distance, unfortunately, because we live across the ocean, and also now a distributor of our product. He's a spectacular guy.
You're in like 10 countries now?
10 in Europe. So we launched in the end of 2013 in the United States, as most American companies do. But we very quickly wanted to launch in Europe, so we could have been faster. I wish it had been, but we got there in October. We launched in 10 countries in Europe. And then at the end of last year, we launched in Hong Kong and Singapore, Asia increasingly.
How much does it cost?
So it's $290, can I sell you one? It's $299 US. It comes with 2 capsules of argon gas.
That lasts for?
They last for, depending on how you use it, 15 to 20 full glasses of wine. We tried to pack as much argon in there. The product is truly...
It's like 2 or 3 bottles?
I don't go by the bottle, and the reason is that eventually, you get to here, you pull the cork.
Yeah.
And you drink the rest. And some people, one of the back half benefits of Coravin is I have a bunch of bottles in my cellar that are at some stage of empty or full. You could think of it that way. And when a friend comes over, instead of opening one bottle, I'll open 2 or 3 half-full bottles. So I still think of it by the way.
So you were once asked, why is this American guy born in New York disrupting this very French beverage?
Yeah, hopefully for all of our benefits. I expected resistance in Europe. It is the conservative center of production of wine, and some of the best wines in the world, in my view. I spent about a year preparing for the launch, in particular in France, fearing that pushback. But actually, you know, it's been extremely receptive. The biggest pushback we get for Coravin, actually, is that change in behavior. You say, oh, this pours wine from a bottle without opening it, and people say, oh, I don't need that, I always finish the bottle.
So what kind of bottles have you tried this, like the most spectacular bottles?
Well, there was one that I've been trying over and over again. I should mention Friends, but this is actually the core and their friends too. Lambrecht, 1961. I was given a bottle by my grandfather-in-law. We sampled it. He was frightened to open it. It was a bottle, as he said, was too good to drink.
Aubryon.
Aubryon. Lambrecht. And 61 was an amazing year. And we sampled it together using an early prototype. I then drank that bottle in 3 continents over the next year with 13 different people. And I've had the pleasure of drinking that wine more than should be okay. Because people have heard that story and they've offered it to me, and I have to tell you, every single time I've had it, I say, this is the best thing I've ever had.
So you developed your product over 11 years. You started with 40 bottles in your cellar. How many do you have now?
It's potentially research. Let's call it research-related bottles. I have about 2,000, and probably 600 of them are in some state of access. So when a friend comes over, I always say, have whatever you want. Let's just have a glass of whatever.
Greg, thank you so much for what you're doing for the wine industry, for us wine lovers. And let's go drink that glass behind.
I think so. Let's get another one.
Thank you.
Thank you.